there is still, unfortunately, quite a negative aura attached to menopause. We're getting older. We live in a very ageism society, don't we? That we don't want to get older. So that there's still kind of a bit of a stigma attached to it that we need to work on and really talk about, because there shouldn't be.
Ladies, do you ever feel like your body's suddenly speaking a language you don't understand? Hot flashes out of nowhere, mood swings that catch you off guard, and nights where sleep feels like a distant memory? Sound familiar? If you're nodding along, you're not alone. Perimenopause and menopause can feel like taboo topics, shrouded in mystery, shame, and brushed off as just a phase. But today's guest is here to be your guide, helping you decode it all with clarity, compassion, and a whole lot of practical wisdom. I'm thrilled to introduce Alison Bladh, a nutritional therapist who specializes in empowering women over 40 through the transformative stages of perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. Nutritional therapy uses food and lifestyle changes to support the body's natural healing process. Alison believes in the power of positive nutrition, focusing on what to add to your plate, not what to take away. She's here to remind us that with the right tools, our bodies have an incredible ability to heal and thrive. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start understanding your body's signals, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Hello, Alison. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Oh, thank you, Joe. It's lovely to be here on your podcast. Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm always interested in this topic. Obviously, it may not affect me directly, but I think a lot of women in this menopause era might like, what's really going on in my body, right? So to sort of start maybe with the basics, what is actually happening during a menopause or even perimenopause to a woman's body?
Yeah, I think it's very good actually to start with that question, because, there's so many women and men that don't really understand what menopause is. Menopause really is, it's a totally natural process that we shouldn't forget, but it's a transition, and it consists of perimenopause, which is the first phase. And this, on average, obviously it does depend slightly where you live in the world, but on average, this can start at the age of 45. And perimenopause is where things start to become unbalanced. So your estrogen and your progesterone levels can just be all over the place. It's a bit like this mad kind of roller coaster ride. And due to these fluctuations in hormones, you can start experiencing menopausal symptoms. The list goes on of menopausal symptoms. The most common ones that people think about is like hot flashes, night sweats, etc. So that's perimenopause. And perimenopause tends to go on until the age of 51. And then you're in what we call menopause. And menopause really is when you haven't had a period consecutively for a year. So you haven't menstruated for a year. You are then in menopause. So you no longer have ovarian function, your estrogen and your progesterone levels are very low. And then all the time after that, which is, the rest of a woman's life, you're in what we call postmenopause. And postmenopause is where, your ovaries don't function anymore. You don't have menstruation. You're no longer fertile, and that's the rest of your life. But with the decline in hormones, there are certain things that happen in the body because, we need our hormones as women. And estrogen and progesterone are very important for so many bodily functions. They're not just reproductive hormones. So, it can affect the health of women as we go through this transition.
So basically this 45, is there any situations maybe where it starts much earlier for people? And if so, like maybe what's the earliest you've seen?
Absolutely. When we talk about the natural menopause, that on average is the age of 45, where perimenopause, it kind of just creeps in. It's not just all of a sudden one day you think, oh, I'm in perimenopause. Women that experience menopause at a younger age, it is extremely traumatic, and it can happen, in your 20s. It's called ovarian insufficiency syndrome, and this is where your ovaries stop functioning, at a very young age. And as you can imagine, that is very traumatic for a young woman, because you can no longer have children, and you actually go into menopause. But that is a condition. It's a condition in itself that you would obviously need to talk to a doctor about. But there are certain situations in a woman's life, like medications, if you've had certain cancer treatments that, stop your ovarian function, then you will go into menopause. If you've had a hysterectomy where they remove your ovaries, you will be automatically put into menopause because you don't have those hormones. And I mean, this can happen at any age for a woman. So if you have menopause younger than the age of 40, that is quite unusual, but it can be due to many different factors, due to illness, due to medication, or this ovary insufficiency syndrome, which can happen at very young age. So yeah, it does absolutely happen to women under 40.
So is it more of an idea of listening to your body and paying attention to, okay, this is different, that's different, or is it a situation where a woman might see their gynecologist every year and that person can sort of determine, okay, this is looking like this might start a little earlier than normal?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, really, because it's so individual. I think obviously if you have had cancer or you're taking medications, then it's very obvious, or you've had a hysterectomy. But if you haven't got any sort of illnesses and you haven't menstruated for like months on end, and you're a young woman, under the age of 40 or under the age of 45, you really need to talk to your healthcare provider, because that isn't normal. And again, that can be due to many different things. If you're not eating properly, if you have eating disorders, you don't menstruate. But any sort of change in your normal menstrual pattern, you need to talk to your doctor about, because that can be detected earlier. We can do blood tests to see hormonal levels in women. And if you find that you're just feeling exhausted all the time, and you're not menstruating, you just don't feel yourself, then it's worth going absolutely and talking to your doctor.
Yeah, I mean, the women that I'm around and know, I don't know that there's a lot of awareness about perimenopause. Is it fair to say that maybe women might feel a little unprepared when this happens because they're not really prepared by maybe society or their medical professional to kind of make them be aware of these signs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the menopause we don't talk about it enough. It's I always find it fascinating. You think it's a big hormonal event in a woman's life, but we don't talk about it. And it does vary on where you are in the world. I work a lot in different parts of the world, and I see, some areas we're talking about it more. Some countries, it's just, nobody talks about it. So it does vary where you live in the world. And in the United Kingdom, I actually come from the United Kingdom, and there, at the moment, or for the last probably like 5-6 years, maybe even longer, actually, there's been this really big momentum behind, women want information about menopause. They want the support. And it was because a lot of celebrities got behind it, women celebrities going through the menopause. There were many documentaries on television, and it kind of built up this momentum. So now there's everybody's talking about it in the UK, which is great. But then you go to other countries where, women, nobody's talking about it, and women don't get the support they need. They're just kind of told to get on with it. Because I think with perimenopause, it creeps in. And a lot of the time, the women that I work with, they don't necessarily relate it down to anything to do with their hormones. They just put it down to life, like stresses and family and work and, all of these things that we feel exhausted over in life, which of course they have an effect. But then if you put on top of that the fact that your hormones may be fluctuating, it can really make you feel terrible, and it can, cause anxiety and all of these things. But they never relate it to that. They normally just put it down to their lifestyle. And many women that I talk to will say, if I say to them, maybe, it could be that you're coming into perimenopause, they'll say, no, that couldn't be that. Absolutely not. I think it's also a bit of, there is still, unfortunately, quite a negative aura attached to menopause. We're getting older. We live in a very ageism society, don't we? That we don't want to get older. So that there's still kind of a bit of a stigma attached to it that we need to work on and really talk about, because there shouldn't be.
So it's more of a, because of that ageism that exists, people feel like I have to sort of maybe ignore certain signs. Like, is there maybe like a common myth that maybe runs across clients that you're working with, maybe in this perimenopause stage?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, we're talking about myths, and there's so much like misinformation out there, on social media, and that has no science to back it up. And, I hear all the time, so many different myths, but I think probably one of the biggest ones that I hear, because it affects so many women, is that weight gain in this stage of life is inevitable. You will put on weight and there's nothing you can do about it. And yes, your body does change. Not everybody, but, a lot of women do experience a change in their body shape. They don't necessarily always put weight on, but because of the hormonal decline, it's kind of like your fat redistributes. So you go from a pear shape to more of an apple. So, you gather your weight around the tummy area. This is very common. And it doesn't, you don't have to accept that. It's not inevitable. That isn't true. And I work with women every day to help them, not just with weight management, with many other aspects of this transition. There's so many things that you can do. I think we have to remember that menopause isn't just about, it doesn't just affect our reproductive system. It affects everything. We need estrogen and progesterone and testosterone for so many different things in our bodies, from bone health to brain health, heart health, skin. It really does affect everything. It really has a huge effect on our metabolism as well when we have a decline in these hormones. So I think that, the myth, weight gain is inevitable. And then another one that is kind of like, you just got to grin and bear it. And no one's going to help me. No one wants to hear about it. Let's just get on with it. I know I grew up in quite a strict British family, and all the women around me when they were going through, which I didn't kind of really understand what it was at that young age. But when I look back now, they were just really suffering. And it was like, oh, no, you don't. My grandmother was like, you absolutely don't talk about that. You just get on with it, which isn't how it should be, because you need support, you need help. And knowledge is power, isn't it? Once you understand what's going on with your body and that you're not going mad, you can get the help and the support that you need, so you feel better.
And because you work, like you said, all around the world, do you see disparities amongst doctors, gynecologists, whatever it might be that these women might be going to, where some of them maybe don't understand fully what you're explaining right here, that they're just maybe going off of old data or old practices? Or has the medical community globally caught on?
No, no, unfortunately. It's getting better, but again, it's very dependent on where you live in the world. I think that the education, obviously I can't talk for every single medical education in the world, but in general, the amount of time that doctors in their training, where they actually talk about the menopause, is just minimal. It's a tiny part of their education. And it's not something, and I see this all the time. And when I talk to clients that, they go to their doctor with these classical menopausal symptoms, and the doctor doesn't even ask them anything to do with like their age or the hormones or or anything like that. They'll start going down the route of doing like brain scans or, bone density. Well, that actually can be quite useful. But so in answer to your question, I think no, that the medical profession hasn't really caught up yet. But in saying that, there are some fantastic doctors, functional medicine doctors as well, that are really, focusing on this. So you just need to do your homework and make sure when you go to a healthcare provider that they do understand the menopause and specialize in the menopause, because there are many very good doctors, but you just have to find them.
Yeah. So a woman might say, okay, I'm feeling this, but where do I begin? Is it sort of the functional side would be the best place to start for someone to really understand from the root cause up? Because you're mentioning skin, brain, like I don't think the average person thinks of those symptoms or those outcomes, whatever it might be, as related to menopause or even perimenopause when things are starting.
Yeah, I think if you're starting to, if you're at that age, around 45, and you just kind of start, you don't feel like yourself. I mean, it's very different, obviously, for every woman. Some women just glide through it and don't feel anything. But if you're having hot flashes, you just feel tired all the time. You feel irritable. You haven't got the same amount of joy for life. It's worth going and talking to a doctor that understands menopause, because there's so many different routes that you can go down. But what you need to think about at this phase is that you have to start looking after yourself a bit more. You can't get away with what you did when you were younger, even if you think you can. I can assure you can't. Those late nights, you just can't handle it anymore. And it's kind of like your body, you just need to take care of yourself, and you can still feel fantastic, but it just takes a little bit more effort. And it's more, there isn't a magic answer, just do this and you'll feel fantastic. It's really, you have to look at your nutrition, look at your lifestyle habits, your mindset, how are you feeling emotionally? And then maybe if that's an area that you want to look at, hormone replacement therapy. So you've got all of those things, but you can't just do one of them. You really need to look at everything to get that balance in your life.
Yeah, I think, well, especially at the age 45, I mean, there's women with 2, 3, 4 kids at the time, and they're balancing. Maybe they're working, maybe they're right coming home, the homework, all that stuff. So it might be easier to kind of brush off those as, oh, I'm frustrated because I'm tired. I'm frustrated because everyone has homework and dinner, and we're all trying to make this schedule happen and work for the family, but they don't realize that potentially it could be part of these symptoms setting in.
Yeah. And we ignore it because we just think it is life, isn't it? And
Exactly.
like you say, we all everyone seems to be chronically stressed, don't they? We're living in this chronic stress. We've got high cortisol levels. And then on top of that, that you've got this perimenopause creeping in there. You can feel terrible. You really can. Most women, by the time they come to me, they're just exhausted. They're totally burnt out, and they haven't really understood why that is. And once you kind of explain to them that it could be this and it could be your hormones, in a way they feel better, because some women, they think they're going mad.
Oh, trust me. No, that's what I'm saying. I know women in this age range, and it's like you do wonder, is it because you're so stressed and burnt out from work and family and whatever it might be? Or is it a combination of both? You never know. Food, like I want to talk food because you're a nutritionist. Can what we eat during this time kind of help you feel, help us, help women feel more balanced as they're going through this phase in their life?
Absolutely. What we eat plays a huge part in how we feel. And I see that every day. And it doesn't have to be complicated, but if you think that what you're eating and what you put into your body really affects how you feel, and there's a lot of research to back this up regarding like menopausal symptoms. Certain foods, for example, like ultra processed packaged foods that are very high in damaged fats, in sugar, all of those many different ingredients like preservatives and emulsifiers have an inflammatory effect on our body. And these in turn, if you find that your diet is predominantly packaged foods, this can really make your experience of menopause worse. It all comes down to blood sugar balance. That's one very key thing for everybody, really. But because of the effects of declining hormones that they have on your metabolism, we find that we're more sensitive to blood sugar imbalances. And a lot of women become what we call insulin resistant as we age as women. And this is really when your body can't utilize glucose, it can't utilize sugar like it should. And you can find that your blood sugar levels really increase. And this, of course, is not good. That the next step from that is diabetes 2. So you really need to work on blood sugar management, because this helps to just reduce symptoms. It helps in all aspects, in brain health, in energy. So if you can eat in what I call in a balanced way, try to, I know it's difficult. It really is difficult to remove the ultra processed foods completely from your diet, because they're everywhere, aren't they? We live in a very toxic food environment. But if you can, even just reducing them a bit is better than nothing. And just buying like whole food, that was how our bodies, we're meant to eat like that. We're not supposed to eat these foods that have gone through many different processes, and majority of them have no nutritional value. So, for example, if you eat meat, you could have like just a chicken breast, some an array of different vegetables, some healthy fats on that. So maybe some like olive oil or butter, nuts and seeds, avocado are great forms of healthy fats as well. And then, carbohydrates, but carbohydrates from whole grains. So things like quinoa, whole grain rice. What you really want to remove is kind of like the refined white products, like, white flour, white rice, because they shoot your blood sugar up. They're very easy to digest. So they really just shoot your blood sugar up. When you eat whole foods that have a higher content of fiber in, your body can't digest it as quickly. So that really is great to keep your blood sugar on more of an even level. So protein, healthy fats, carbohydrates from, vegetables are carbohydrates. So half your plate should be from vegetables. There's so many wonderful vegetables, all different colors. Quarter of your plate, protein, fish, meat. If you don't eat animal products, you can use soya, beans, lentils, all of those sort of things. And then healthy fats, which we need for hormone production, amongst other things. Omega-3 fatty acids, which it can be found in fatty fish. They can be found in algae products as well for vegans and vegetarians. That's really it. You don't need to suddenly think, oh, I've got to totally change the way that I eat. You just need to be more mindful. And I can assure you, if you really get rid of all the junk food, you will just feel so much better. You really will. Our bodies are not made to eat those sort of foods. And we've seen that. I mean, there's a ton of research on, I actually wrote a paper for a newspaper the other day on ultra processed foods. And I was looking at the research. It was just like this never-ending list of research on how bad ultra-processed foods are for us. But they're still in the shops, aren't they? It's money, isn't it? They're a big money.
Oh, it's 100%. Yeah, that's right there in the middle, right? They always say, shop the perimeter, or at least in the States here, because the healthy foods tend to be there, but then they cram all the bad stuff in the middle, and there's aisles and aisles of it. So you kind of can't escape it, because you have to pass through, maybe from the produce to get to the meat. You're passing all the ultra processed foods on the way.
It's also addictive. I mean, they make it very, very, they work on this like sweet spot, don't they? Of fat, sugar, salt. I mean, how often when you open a packet of crisps, I think you call them chips, don't you, in the US? And you just can't eat one, can you? You end up eating the whole packet. It's the same with biscuits, isn't it? Chocolate chip biscuits. How often can you just eat one? You can't. They make them addictive, which is even worse, isn't it, really?
Yes, yeah, it's 100% where it's like a drug, right? You're you're becoming addicted to this chemicals, whatever they're putting in them, and you just can't stop. They even joke on some of the things out here. I bet you can't eat just one of the
Yeah,
potato,
yeah.
right? You're like chips. You're like, oh my gosh. You're like, of course not, because
You can't.
what are you putting in it? So what drew me to you too was nutritional therapy, right? So I think a lot of people might come across that, not really understand. When someone comes to you, what's the approach you take from a nutritional therapist standpoint? How do you kind of walk through helping them in the beginning to kind of assess where they're at?
Yeah, I work very individually with clients because we're all got different goals and health issues, etc. I also do group programs, but when I work individually with clients, I work very much with the functional medicine model, which functional medicine is where it's like peeling back the layers of an onion. So I want to find out what is going on. Why are you getting migraines, for example, or why is your digestion so bad? Really getting to the root cause of it. That is really what functional medicine is about, because there's always a reason behind everything. It's not just about treating the symptom, it's finding out why you feel like that, what is actually causing that. So initially, the client would fill in a lengthy health questionnaire so I can really get to know what their goals are and what health issues that they might have had, what medications they're taking, etc., etc. And from that, I then have a consultation with the client and we discuss this further to really, dig deep. I even go into what we call a timeline, which is fascinating to see, even from birth, whether you were a cesarean or natural birth, affects you because of the microbiome, the gut bacteria. All of this is affected depending on how you were born. So that's like an example of a timeline. And then you can really see throughout someone's life if they've had a lot of trauma or maybe surgeries or things that have happened. It's almost always the case that these things coincide with certain illnesses or, I started feeling bad then, I started putting weight on then. So that is fascinating to do, actually, a timeline. And then once we've done all that, we together with the client, we put a plan together that suits them and their lifestyle, using nutritional therapy, but also lifestyle medicine and working on mindset to not be so negative through this transition. Because if you feel terrible and you find that you're being very negative, it just makes you feel even worse. And one thing that I'm very that I do a lot for my clients is the support, because it's all very well saying to a client, okay, well, this is how I would like you to eat. This is the supplements maybe you should be taking. I can do testing if that's needed for the client, like to see their vitamin levels or hormonal testing. But they need the support. So I see my clients every week through, a telephone or a Zoom call to really give them the support to help them to make these changes. So that's really how it goes. But it is very individual, depending on the client and what the client actually needs. And then as the weeks go by, you really see the improvement in their health.
Oh, I can imagine. And you'd mentioned stress too, which obviously plays a huge factor in this whole process. How about sleep? Like, how would someone say, "Okay, I sleep like crap," and you might say, "Oh, well, that's part of why you might be going through this." Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sleep it's just so important, isn't it? And I can just feel now, if you don't have a good night's sleep, you just feel terrible. It affects every aspect of your life, doesn't it? And during menopause, you can find that it can be difficult to sleep. And there are a lot of scientific reasons for this due to the hormone imbalances. You need melatonin, which is it's like sleep hormone. The production of that can be affected. due to the lack of estrogen and progesterone. So there's many things coming into play here, and also cortisol, which is our stress hormone. If you find that you're chronically stressed all the time, that can have a huge effect on your sleep. It really can kind of throw your sleep out of sync. Poor sleep increases inflammation. It increases, weight gain, anxiety. So you really need to rethink your sleep routine and what you do before you go to bed to really help you sleep. Because sleep is one thing that if I have clients that are struggling with sleep, that's one of the things that we tend to work on first, because until you get that in place, it's hard to do anything else. And there are many things that you can do. Hormone replacement therapy, again, that is a personal choice. But if you decide to go down that route, that has been shown that can help with sleep. And then really thinking about what you do before you go to sleep, managing your stress, getting outside in the morning is really important for sleep. And you might not, think that, but your circadian rhythm, your body is in a rhythm of day and night, and we need daylight in the morning to kind of set our rhythm. If you're just in an office or inside all day, that affects your sleep even more. So even just standing outside in the sun for 10-15 minutes in the morning can really help with sleep. Not eating before you go to bed, so really trying to leave at least 2 hours from having your evening meal to when you actually go to sleep. One thing that is huge that I've seen that really damages people's sleep is all this technology that we're constantly looking at and overstimulating our brains, lying in bed, strolling randomly through every social media platform. It's really bad for sleep. I actually had a client a few months ago that was addicted to TikTok, and she was brilliant because she admitted it, and she was having terrible time sleeping because she'd go to bed, she was exhausted, and then her way of relaxing would be that she'd take her mobile phone and just, go on that never-ending scroll of TikTok. And she bless her, she actually deleted it because she said, the only way that I'm going to be able to get rid of this is delete it. So she deleted it off her phone. And when I saw her the next time, she said to me, Alison, that was the best thing that you told me to do. She said
detox,
it was the best
right?
thing. Yeah, she sleeps so much better now. And that was literally getting her to stop playing with her phone in the evenings. On my group programs, I actually get the ladies to take their phones out of the bedroom. They're not allowed to charge them or anything in the bedroom. They have to charge them somewhere else. So, you need an alarm clock, but anything like that is terrible for our sleep.
Oh, it's probably good to keep the EMFs away from your body as much as possible. Keep your phone out of the room and in general, right?
Yeah.
Is it ever too early for a woman listening to start thinking about hormone balance?
No, absolutely not. It's never too early, because if you understand, I try to say to younger women, I know you're absolutely not thinking about the menopause, and you shouldn't be either, but just get a little bit of knowledge about it so that when you get into your 40s what is actually going to happen. And knowing that how you treat yourself and you look after yourself and what you eat and hopefully you exercise and all of those things will affect your menopause transition. Because it's actually been shown in studies that if you go into menopause in a for want of a better word, like a more of an unhealthy state, you're more likely to experience menopausal symptoms. Whereas if you look after yourself and exercise and try to eat as healthily as you can, you tend to go through the transition better. And also things like bone health, which is key for women, and in particular as we age, because again of the hormones, estrogen and progesterone, are needed for the integrity of our bones. Looking after your bones when you're younger will help you when you age, making sure you're eating calcium, you've got vitamin D, vitamin K, and doing lifting things. So strength training is really, really important for women in general. But if you find that if you've got a strong body when you go into menopause, you will experience it, hopefully, in a better way.
Right, because you had mentioned a couple of things I wanted to ask. Skin, right? Beauty and skin. I believe you have a background as a beauty therapist. How does that fit into the hormonal picture? Is that something that it presents itself with acne, irritations, kind of thing that might be a sign that they're just assuming is stress related?
Yeah, skin. I am actually an esthetician, which is a posh word for a beauty therapist. Yeah, I mean, you could actually do a whole podcast on the skin and menopause. There's many things that happen with the skin. We lose collagen. That we have a quite a considerable decline in collagen. In the first 5 years of menopause, women can lose up to 30% of collagen in the skin. And collagen is kind of like, it keeps the skin structure. It keeps it firm and plump. It's like the building blocks of the skin, not just the skin. Collagen is needed for many things in the body, like joint health, etc. So due to that, we can start seeing fine lines and wrinkles. Some women in perimenopause develop acne. Again, that is due to because of the imbalance of hormones, testosterone, which really isn't to do with menopause, but that tends to decline as we age as women. Everything can become unbalanced, and when testosterone becomes more dominant, that can cause acne on the skin. The skin can become very sensitive, so you can suddenly start reacting to products that you never had a problem with before. You can get pigmentation. How you treated your skin when you were younger. So if you were a big sun worshipper when you were younger, it suddenly starts to show up. You can get like dark pigmentation, which is called hyperpigmentation on the skin. Yeah, what else happens to the skin? Dry skin. Another thing that a lot of women in menopause suffer from is itchy skin, particularly like on the legs and the back. And this can really happen at night. So it can really affect your sleep. So yeah, there are a lot of things that happen with the skin. So again, you want to get some professional advice from a beauty therapist that understands the skin, making sure that you're using the right products for your skin, because your skin changes so much. The products that you're using might not be suitable for you. You might need to change them. And then, there's many different professional treatments that you can use on the skin to help the skin. And then diet plays a big role in how your skin looks as well. So yeah, there's a lot that goes on in the body, and it isn't just the skin. It affects the hair as well. You can have hair loss and dry hair. Your hair can become very brittle.
Wow. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot for someone to just experience these things and not really understand. Like, say someone's listening to you, and they're kind of like, okay, I get this, but they're also, like you're saying, skin, hair, like all these factors, or they're maybe overwhelmed. If you had to say like one thing a person listening might be able to do today to feel more in control of their hormones, where would you start?
Yeah, where would I start? I think, okay, can I say two things?
Sure, of course.
The two things that give the best, quick wins for you which we've already spoken about, is blood sugar balance. That is a huge one. If
Right.
you can get your blood sugar by eating in balance, you will feel so much better. And that affects everything, affects your skin, everything. And then managing your stress. If you've got high cortisol levels, that actually affects your skin as well. Those two things are very powerful. It's a very good start to feeling better. Don't feel that you have to do everything at once. It's very much about small steps. You don't have to suddenly overhaul your whole diet. Just, for example, do something as simple as okay, I'm now going to fill half my plate with vegetables from now on. I'm just going to, it could be frozen vegetables if that's easier for you. I'm going to do that, and I'm going to make sure that I'm having a quarter of my plate with protein. Start small and do stress relief. One thing that is wonderful is breathing exercises. If you feel that you're becoming anxious, take a few deep breaths. It's so effective, deep breathing, and it's free, and you can do it anywhere.
That's true. It's free, right? It's a good way to look at it. How about something you wish every woman knew by the time she turns 40?
I would say that to women is that understand that your body is not working against you. It's really your body saying that you have to pay more attention to it. So don't try and fight it. Just respect how your body is feeling and enter this phase of life, which is a natural phase, really understanding that you need to support yourself more. It's like giving yourself a big hug, isn't it? It's certainly not the end. It's just a new chapter in life. And you can feel great again, but don't fight it, work with it.
Yeah, no, that's great, because I would say, because you mentioned a few times frustration, people are overwhelmed. They might get, again, frustrated. How do you sort of guide them more into like a self-compassion mindset instead of just being completely frustrated with the whole process?
Yeah, I find that most women, once you really explain what is going on, and it's not just like them going crazy, they tend to relax, and really, explaining that this is a natural phase, and you may well be feeling horrible or very tired, or whatever it is, how it's affecting you, but just be nice to yourself, because if you get all anxious and stressed over everything, you're just going to feel even worse. So I do work very differently with clients on this part, depending on how they're feeling. But it's really just finding them. What I find is really finding them ways to manage stress makes them feel better, and also makes them feel better, more positive mentally. But saying, be kind to yourself, don't judge yourself, and don't listen to that. Like, we've all got this little voice, haven't we, on our shoulder saying, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Don't listen to that voice. Just be kind to yourself and realize that you're not failing. You're just entering a new transition in your life.
Yeah, I think people, when they're in that world, they're reading things online. I think, who knows, they could be going to TikTok and scrolling for videos on this topic. How do you recommend people listening here separate sort of the fact from fiction when they find this advice online that may not be the right path for them?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because there's just so much information out there, and it's difficult to know whether it's credible or not. But try to sit, and I know it's difficult to find credible sources, but really, do a bit of homework, work with people that have a qualification, that are credible. Anybody that's credible, you can go on to their website, you can see their credentials. You can see what qualifications they've got. You can maybe look at reviews that they've had from clients, people that have registered. I'm sure it works the same in the US, doesn't it? But, you have to be registered by a governing body. I'm under many different governing bodies that you have to obey by their rules to be, to say that you're registered. So that is very good to follow and read those sort of people, because they're specialists, and the evidence, they work with evidence-based information, like I do. Everything that I say has research to back it up. Be very wary of these like miracle cures. There's so many, aren't there? I mean, I laugh sometimes when I'm looking at Instagram on some like this amazing beauty cure that all you need to do. There was something recently, all you need to do was like stick this, it was just like a tape, like to your forehead and here, and you can sleep with it on, and then magically all your wrinkles will be gone. So, and I understand that you can get, I mean, sometimes I think, oh, that sounds great. But then you have to have a reality check and think that, scientifically, how can that actually work permanently? So to try not to be kind of drawn into these miracle cures and things that, I would say, if it sounds too good to be true, it normally is, isn't it? If you do your homework before you buy any of these, it's all
Yeah.
about quality information, isn't it? Researched information. When you read articles, see if there's references at the bottom, even on blogs and things like that, because it can be overwhelming. And I get it totally. The wellness industry, the health industry is massive. And there's just so much information out there now. So it's totally overwhelming, full of quick fixes. So look for people that are qualified and look for evidence-based information. And then find, once you've found someone that you like or a few people, just stick to that. Follow them or read their blogs or whatever. Otherwise, you can become overwhelmed with just so much information.
Oh, I think the theme I'm getting in this time we've had together, like maybe knowledge is power. The more you can educate yourself, it's just another chapter in life. But you want to be armed with as much credible knowledge that you can get out there to prepare yourself and to make the right choices for your body, because there's no one size fits all miracle cure out there for what you're going through. It's just arming yourself with that data that can help you go into this chapter.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with you, Joe. And it is a brilliant, fantastic chapter. It's just a new phase in life.
Yeah, we all will go through something, right? Whether it's the testosterone, men look into this and the replacement therapies for that as well. But do you work with clients globally? Like if someone listening wants to connect with you, learn more about obviously you and your work, do you, I know you have group and individual, but is it global?
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, I work predominantly online now. So all my meetings and client meetings are done online. So yes, I work with clients all over the world.
What would be the best place to find you online?
I think probably the best place is my website, because on there I've got all my social media handles and everything. And if you look for Alison Bladh, Bladh, you can find me on it, on everything. But my website, there's a lot of information. There's recipes and free downloads and everything. So
Perfect. Well, then I'll make sure that's all in the show notes, of course. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been great to get to talk with you and learn so much. Obviously, like I prefaced in the beginning, it's not so much related to me, but I'm surrounded by these great women in my life, so it helps to understand, I believe, from the male standpoint, to be able to support. So
yeah, well, thank you, Joe. It's been lovely talking to you.
you have a great rest of your day. Thanks, Alison.